gabi kaninyong tanan and welcome to our program Partners in Law. Kini gihapon gihatag kanato sa Cebu Lady Lawyers Association and the Philippine Earth Justice Center. So sa usa ka oras, we'll talk about issues surrounding our environment here in Cebu and also in the Philippines. And also we'll talk about solutions, campaigns, and other advocacies and strategies that we have been doing in order to help protect our environment. So this is Attorney Joy Argalion, the Legal and Policy Officer of the Philippine Earth Justice Center, and welcome sa atong programa. So this month, we're celebrating the World Oceans Day. Isip usa sa atong part sa atong dako nga parte sa atong advokasya is the protection of our oceans and also of our marine resources. Part sa sa atong discussion karon, and we have lots of issues and problems that we need to talk about in order to raise awareness about these issues. So with me karong gabi una sa atong programa is our campaigns director for the Philippine Earth Justice Center, Ms. Nina Estanzo.
Hi, Joycey.
Hi, Ms. Nin.
Hello
Thank
to
you
everybody
for joining
watching.
Us. Yes, and
Thanks for having me.
Part sa atong discussion karon will be on the campaigns, youth-led campaigns about the all these things that we've been doing here in Cebu, and not just in Cebu, di ba, Ms. Nin, also in other parts of the country.
Yes, yeah. Really in line also with the World Oceans Month, because the Philippines being an archipelago, we are surrounded by exactly that water, right? So the Philippine Earth Justice Center recently has, not recently, I think more than almost a year now, we've been really youth-directed in the sense na the issue of or the solutions for climate change, if it is not led by the youth, will be moot and academic, really, because in essence, ang kaning environmental issues na to karon really impinges on the future which is theirs.
Yes.
Right? So if the campaigns are not youth-led, the solutions are not coming from the youth, then we'll probably be just running around in circles. The same aggravators to the environment cannot possibly find the solutions themselves. So youth-led.
Yeah. And so for our televiewers, Ms. Nin, ako ay siguro mo kong story about laws here. I think every month na natay episode we talk about laws, but this time we'll shift it more to the campaigns. Ako di man na ako strong forte ng campaigns,
Yeah.
So when we say youth-led, Ms. Nin, how did we come up with the idea, and how did we conceptualize, and unsa atong first base ng atong youth-led campaigns in PEJC?
Yeah. Well, the strength, as you know, of course, of PEJC is in its litigation, right? It's in its legal arm, it having been founded by law professors and lawyers themselves. But as of late, we recognize, and I'm not a lawyer, but I am a campaigner, and as of late, we've recognized that the issue is no longer just in the hands of lawyers. By the time it gets to a point of litigation, the environment was already hurt, right? So what we're trying to do is to be at the forefront outside of the law, hoping that maybe through campaigns we can collaborate and we can work together. I don't think the love for the environment is exclusive only to us who are advocating for it, Joy. I think there are a lot out there who are equally as invested in it. They probably are just misguided. They just don't know the right facts. They're unaware that if they do this, it hurts the environment. So we're out there making sure that as many people know about it so that we can work with other advocates, we can inspire, we can trigger, we can fire start, and we can build a greater coalition in the community, which hopefully is also science-based and then will compel policy. So when you have, again, an elevated electorate, an educated electorate, then they the idea is that the community now is the one who compels government to make sure their environment is protected.
Yes, so sakto kaayo ang shift, no? I think it's a paradigm shift also because, yes, as what Ms. Ninya mentioned, no, kami lawyers, we're very limited. Once it gets to the court, we can't talk so much about it. We need other people to campaign and advocate using what we call these meta-legal strategies. No, dili na siya illegal ng mga activities, but we're doing these, campaigning, lobbying, and doing all sorts of things to influence people, and also even our policymakers also. So, Miss Nin, unsa may murag skill set required to be a campaigner, or is there needed ba nga skill set?
Yeah, no, I don't feel that there's any specialization for it. Like, I think if anything, just with the sheer love of being out there with the people, and doing it year after year, I think you gain kind of a good feel as to what works and what doesn't. Especially having worked on various campaigns with John or you and some of our youth leaders also. And besides, it's an easy campaign to kind of engage them in, because they're actually already very aware, and they're actually already really just raring to go and are clear that their environment should be protected. The youth are actually quite empowered, and it's so nice to be able to meet them now and hear their voices in actuality. So, and it does influence policy, Joy. So, for example, as you know, we are working with UC Law Center through the Office of the Legal Aid for a local initiative and referendum, that we're trying to get off the ground. And this one is more for a community-based environmental protection program, right? So, again, if it's just one sector of government working, it does not hold much water. But as you saw from the previous administration's success on the community-based rehab program, it was because it was an entire like a whole of community approach. So that's what we're trying to just do in the campaigns, with the lawyers, with the scientists, and then with the youth, with government even, and then the whole of community. So collaborating instead of having to whoop somebody because a law has been broken.
Yeah, is it the same? Because ako, I do have a pol sci background. So is it the same as like a bottom up approach in terms of policy making?
It's very similar in the sense that a BUB goes through government, right? Arms of government, but of course you get the feel from it's very human centered also, right? And I do agree with that. But this one now is more that a law is passed without it having to go through the hands of the politician. So an ordinance or any sort of policy is passed usually through our barangay councilmen, through our city or municipal council. In the national level, you have the Congress, and then you have the Senate, right? So it's usually in the hands of lawmakers, capable or not. And but for this one, certain law is designed by the community. They say what it is that they need. Law is crafted. A policy is crafted until it is passed by the people.
Yes.
So COMELEC is involved. About 10 or 12% of the voting population has to sign it into law. So it's quite empowering, really, to show people that really, hari ang katauhan, you do have the power to create policy and make change that will impact your future and your well-being and your human rights, right?
Yeah, so for the benefit tayo sa atong televiewers, Miss Nino, ang concept sa local initiative and referendum, mura kanang sa the usual no kanang plebisito nga moboto ang mga tao if uyon sila ani or not, no? And it's the same kind of concept that we're putting, but more on environmental policies and laws that we're putting on the ground. Where did you get the idea of or the concept of the local initiative and referendum, Miss Nino?
Oh, okay. So this would have to have a rather personal starting point, because a few years back, I guess you get to a certain age and you support government enough and you see kind of a bit of how it works, and then you see how it impacts communities. And I was really hoping for the longest time to be able to be excited about a good panel of political candidates we can actually vote for. So it took me a while to even register, because I really wasn't believing in the system so much, right? So much like a lot of us or you out there, I was also very I was unbelieving of the system, right? Until I saw it firsthand, and then I felt like, okay, if our politicians are not good enough as far as I feel we deserve, our laws are passed through them. Is there any way wherein the people are actually the ones who dictate that, as we always espouse, right? And then the thought of the local initiative and referendum came, that if only people had their voices heard enough and carry it all the way through, like a plebiscite,
Yes.
then things can change, and government must listen to that. That's the actual voice of the people happening right there. So that's how it began. I'm so glad we have practice ground now.
Yeah, so nindot kaayo ang local initiative and referendum as sort of parang standard siguro, no, himuon na tong standard for our policy making, because kami in the side of the kanang lawyers, when we go to the ground, the pinaka common nga madungga na mo sa mga tao would be they were not consulted or they were not involved in the decision making process, when in fact public participation, no, nana anywhere in our laws, it's practically in our constitution, part of our rights, no, to be informed, to be included in the decision making in such a way that people are consulted with unsay mga polisiya nga buhaton, because eventually at the end of the day all these policies crafted by our government officials or our public officials will affect the people ultimately. So mas nindot gyud, no, nga involved ang public sa tanan nga aspeto sa kanang usa ka proyekto, usa ka decision, usa ka polisiya sa atong government. And that's something that we've always been wanting to ask from our government, accountability, inclusion, and public participation in all of these. Yes, transparency also, because murag for a long period of time, na daghan natang mga balaod gyud nga napasa, to really make sure that people are included in the decision making of these policies. So in our LIR, Miss Nino, I'm very curious because like I said, I'm not a campaigner gyud, but like what Miss Nina said, dili man gyud dapat na ay certain people lang ang mahimong campaigner, but mas strong man si Miss Nina, ana, mas iya man ang strategy, mas iya man ang kanang unsa may tawag ana ha, strong forte, iya man na.
It's just what we're busy with these days. That's really just all it is. Yeah.
But for our local initiative and referendum, how are we starting here in Cebu, Ms. Neil?
Yeah, so I think the local initiative and referendum is really a true testament of what participatory governance is about, right? So we're so lucky that the president of the Tanyan Strait Protected Seascape, the biggest marine protected area in the country, is so progressive and really wants to get this done and wants to empower people. So in District 7, through the leadership of Mayor Gungun Higa, we've actually been highly collaborative with the LGU there, and we had spoken to the barangay capitans of the municipality of Dumanhog, and we get to partner with the UC Law Center through the Office of the Legal Aid through I think it is going to be the CLAP program, where UC Law Center and the LSPs will lead like joint sessions from different barangays regardless of what political party, where they come together and they speak about the law, what they need, how to design it, and if they are for it, they pass it. If not, they don't. But everybody will be involved.
So that's a good start of the discussion for the LIR, especially na we've already started it here in Cebu. But we'll take a few minutes break to thank our sponsors. Partners in Law will be right back. sa atong programa nga Partners in Law. Kini gihapon with the Cebu Lady Lawyers Association and the Philippine Earth Justice Center. So for this month, no, atong topic will be more on the Month of the Oceans as well as campaigns relating to the people's participation in policy making. So karon atong kuyog no sa atong programa karon is si Miss Nina, the campaigns director of the Philippine Earth Justice Center. And ganina nagkastorya na ta a little bit about the local initiative and referendum and how it was conceptualized and unsa na progress. Where are we now in the local initiative and referendum process? So Ms. Nina earlier said na we've been collaborating with local government units, which is something na we're very actively doing since last year, no, and even in the years before. But of course, karon we're doing it with local government units and with youth leaders also. So Ms. Nin, you were saying that we're involving law students also in the drafting of this of the documents needed for the local initiative and referendum.
So the idea again is to really create a community-based environmental protection through a help desk in every barangay, where we identify leaders in the community. The youth must also be involved. This is going to be youth-led, by the way. This is a program led by the Dumanhog, the municipality of Dumanhog, SK, and youth leaders. We have stakeholders from the city going there, specialists like the University of San Carlos Department, College of Biology, and so they're there to study the coastal resources. So it's really also again, as much as we try to do a whole of government approach, this is like a systems-wide approach where different sectors of society are there, including the LGU, looking at a community, empowering them, watching them craft what they need as a community to protect their environment, and then getting it implemented. So everybody is involved.
So you mentioned, Ms. Nina, about biologists and experts. How are we tapping these experts and partners to get them on board for the local initiative and referendum?
Yeah. So a couple of ways that we work with them. These experts are actually published authors of data and research of, say, plastics, microplastics happening in Cebu in particular, and also not only in Cebu but the rest of the country. So these are experts we work with, hopefully, to bring their research and data out there to the policymakers, so that when they do craft policy for environmental issues, they are science-based, right? So that's one way. So we bring the scientists out to the community, talking to the leaders and the community who are affected. That's one. On the other end, they also come and we bring them to our partner LGUs so that they study the coastal resource. So there's a biodiversity assessment that I think every LGU is required, and so our scientists go and do samplings and really actually verify what's still out there, I guess ahead of any coastal resource management planning an LGU might want to do. And down to the dollar, they can do an economic valuation of the coastal resource of an LGU, so you know exactly how much you're actually protecting at your coastline. So it's really interesting to be out there right now, Joy, as you know.
Yes, and because it's a global shift now to the blue carbon economy, the blue economy, wherein we're protecting our natural resources, our marine resources. It can stretch from our coral ecosystems, mangroves, seagrasses, and all of our fish in our oceans, no? Because again, we're an archipelagic country. Nara sa atong backyard yun ang source of food, literally. And we shouldn't be having issues relating to food security if we're only protecting our natural resources, our marine resources.
It's amazing that you mentioned the blue economy, because also I would like to congratulate you and the rest of the Save Cebu movement for what you did up north in Katmon. Did you want to Tell us a little about that one, speaking of the blue economy. And I ask this because instead of reclaim, I hope our political leaders would at least consider what is this blue economy about, right? Because in Katmon, you were able to, how do you call that, sound the alarm along with our locals,
Yes.
resort owners who are very involved in the community. You were able to, how was that, sound the alarm for a reclamation project?
Yeah, so part of the Philippine Earth Justice Center's campaigns, no, and strategies is also to, as part of the Save Cebu movement, which is a broader coalition of groups and institutions opposing reclamation activities here, especially in the island of Cebu. We do have 11 out of the 50 approved reclamation projects. So instead of putting, I would like to parang, echo what Doc Filipina Soto, like a renowned marine biologist here in Cebu, said na instead of putting artificial land masses to our natural resources, we must protect our natural resources, our marine resources, especially at a time like this na we need to conserve and protect instead of like convert it into something that is not really aligned with the development that we're headed in towards good unta in at the time of climate emergency. So in Katmon, so we know that we've heard from social media that there was a planned reclamation project, and it's causing quite a threat to marine resources, especially na we've heard of around 3 marine protected areas or sanctuaries that which are really very important to fisherfolk communities. So ato mangyod here sa Philippine Earth Justice Center, and I think our televiewers would know na we're very active in the campaigns for the protection of the rights of our fisherfolk. Labi na nga sa Cebu nga sa ato ang usa ka side sa dagat, we have the Tanyon Strait Protected Seascape, and daghan gud kayo tang fisherfolk organization. So atong hatagan sila og tingog para to say something for, especially kung ang ilahang katungod and ang ilahang areas where nasa sila nagsalig for their livelihood kay maapektuhan about these reclamation projects. And we're also urging mangpudyo the local government units, like what we said earlier, to be transparent and to really disclose these kinds of programs and developments for kung ila man ang ingon nga para sa katawhan. So dapat ang katawhan sad would know about these projects and issues. So right now it's put on hold, it's cancelled. Hopefully we're hoping na the reclamation project would not push through, because we know that there are quite a lot of issues gyud nga mo arise. We're not just talking about livelihood of the people, but also of the climate risks, probably hazards na ma-pose because of dili kayo planned out and wala na studyohan nga kind of reclamation. So right now we're involving locals, and also government agencies also are very responsive to our requests and also for our guidance also sa local government units. And kami sa Save Cebu movement, we were also offering our expertise through the Citizen Scorecard, which was developed by Oceano Philippines, the Philippine Earth Justice Center, and other stakeholders, which are very keen in ensuring ang atong reclamation activities dili ra siya grow, mutubo gani like mushrooms all around Cebu, because we need to protect good our natural resources, and we pride pag good here ato pag yung pride here sa Cebu about our tourist destinations, our tourist spots, and we do have a lot of very abundant marine biodiversity and marine diving hotspots nindot kaayo dire sa Cebu. So we're hoping na through the blue economy nga daghan na kayong institutions nga gastorya about ana. So hopefully that will cause a shift for our local government units to reconsider these kinds of plans. And I'd like also to add po no na even the Climate Change Commission, which is the parang kumbaga the default policy making body in terms of climate, to ensure that the Philippines would be climate resilient, and all of our plans and programs of the government would be geared towards sustainability of the Philippines, and also compliance with our nationally determined contributions. Also said this was last week during a public hearing for a planned reclamation activity also here in Cebu na we need to study this through to make sure that our carbon emissions are dili siya mo exceed, especially at a climate crisis. And also there has to be like a thorough study for carbon sequestration, carbon mitigation measures for each local government units. And they even highlighted the need for the local climate change action plan for each local government unit. So I think karon required man na sa tanang LGUs to have a local climate change action plan before they can proceed with all of mga development projects para to ensure nga maprotektahan jud ang ato ang climate, and apil na ana ang disaster risk reduction and management ng mga strategies. So daghan kayo to, it's quite a mouthful of issues, especially when we're talking about the blue economy nga issues. But hopefully here in Cebu, not just for our local government officials but also for our televiewers nga nananaw, we need to be mangilabot we need to be aware and vigilant about these projects, because katong atong gistoryaan pagsugod pa lang public participation mo man gyud ni ang core sa atong discussion karon, especially when we're talking about local initiative and referendum.
And also I think the greatest sell nga usually ilang gamito about a reclamation project is livelihood.
Yes.
Right? And that is such a narrative that's being pushed over and over again, as if we who oppose reclamations don't care about anyone else's livelihood, but we do, right? But in fact, that's a fallacy, that automatically it will translate to livelihood once reclaimed, because we see so many reclamation projects that are out there already existing that take about 20-30 years to develop and are still probably being developed right now. So livelihood's not necessarily immediate, right? Not in all of these cases. Second is, if you want to talk about livelihood, if you can only support and strengthen the current industries that are there already, like for example, tourism industry, right? Ecotourism, the push for that. How many? I think the Department of Tourism had estimated how many billions in pesos it translates to pertaining to the tourist arrivals, largely that concentrated in Central Visayas, right? And Cebu being a key player there. Now, if only we can support ecotourism industries that are already existing, that will generate more in livelihood and will ensure protection of our beautiful environment as it already is,
yes.
Right? So, plus the blue economy to support the livelihood of the fisher folk, which is not only economic in nature but also really cultural. This is our heritage, this is our people, right? So ecotourism, I think, is something that is that should be supported, but also that our fisher folk, like, not only is it economic in nature, but also it's cultural. It's our heritage. These are our people, right? We are an island nation, and a majority of the Filipinos live along our shores, and fishing has probably been generational, and we're losing that also, right? So if we can preserve livelihood in that sense and support blue economy and study it and make it thrive in our country, then I think it'll definitely impact government strategies toward climate change. And if the community is involved, then that'd be a really, really powerful thing. Like what happened in Katmon. It was largely a community-based directive on protecting the Katmon seas. So for the rest of the country, if it be like that, it's powerful.
And so, inaana ka-important ang involvement of our fisher folks, especially nga, not just, as what Miss Nina said, not just their livelihood will be affected, but also the cultural heritage of the areas, no? Because I think that has something na important sa nato ma-preserve, no? The beauty of our nature, especially na we're talking about the protection of our environment. So, before we proceed, no, sa ato ang next nga mga discussion points, Partners in Law will be right back. Back sa atong programa nga Partners in Law, kinigihapon with the Cebu Lady Lawyers Association and the Philippine Earth Justice Center. So again, ang atong diskutan for the last pila ka minutes, no, have been all about public participation, especially in decision-making activities and policy-making, labi na sa atong probinsya sa Subo. And some of our municipalities nga, dunay mga issues, dunay mga gipang propose nga mga policies, especially nga affecting yun mga people atong mga fellow Cebuanos and labi na ang mga fisher folks na to. So we mentioned a little bit about some of the reclamation projects nga going on, proposed and still kanang daghan pang stages in the EIA process, no, atong gitawag na environmental impact assessment process, kung diin tan-awon kung unsay epekto unsay mga epekto nga posible mahitabo dili lang sa mga katawhan but also sa environment, sa atong socio-economic nga aspeto sa kinabuhi sa mga katawhan, and also the cultural aspect, no, sa usa ka lugar, usa ka community. Because when we talk about the environmental impact process assessment, dili lang ni siya dapat one-sided, no, nga pagtan-aw nato nga unsay impact ani sa employment, livelihood or development, but will also be looking into unsay epekto ani sa pila na ka years of culture and tradition, pila na ka years of protected marine resources in that area. So important yun na nga ato ng tan-awon and involved ang public sa pagbasa, pagtuon pod sa mga resulta nga sa nahimo nga mga studies. So I think in Katmon, Miss Nino, that's still in the early stages jud kaayo sa ilahang gitawag nga mag-propose pa nila nga reclamation, but it's very important to highlight the public participation even at the earliest stage pa lang sa usa ka proyekto, because this is something na we always want to highlight or emphasize in the communities nga kanang bisag wala pa nagsugod ang problema, dapat naa na tano to act and to be involved in that process, that very same process. And we're thankful for the locals and stakeholders and interested parties dito sa Katmon for sounding the alarm and letting us know, even though we're here sa city, but we're very much involved in the entire process of what's happening in Katmon also.
And to give the LGU the benefit of the doubt, because again we're supposed to be collaborative, no, in this one, is I would like to assume that based on the letter the mayor replied to the ombudsman's call to, is that at least I would like to assume that the LG also listened naman to the people, right?
Yes.
So that originally it was a proposed project to study if a possible reclamation is okay, and then but with the opposition of the stakeholders within local and the bigger Cebu community, I would like to think that government there listened and said, okay, this is not a go. But I would also like to caution that in the environmental impact assessment of any reclamation project, they will also try to study social acceptability.
Yes.
Right? And the dangerous thing about what happened in the north is that there was this letter going around, I don't know who started it, but like a signature campaign, to push for reclamation. I guess, to stand a social acceptability, but that becomes dangerous because it could be misinformation right there that you are signing. So, caution me sa kanang mga nagtutuyok nga signing petition, especially for a reclamation, basig na yung mga false nga mga information ang naadihag ang inyong gipirmahan. So, palihog lang, palihog to investigate unsay basis sa unsay nakaswat, especially pertaining to inyong ibutang ang inyong mga signature diha. So, that's quite important.
Yes, kay also to highlight no for the benefit also of our televiewers, when we say social acceptability, ang giingon ana is dili lang na normal nga pagdawat sa mga tao, but also letting them know and have an informed and intelligent decision. So when we ingon tag informed and intelligent, kay bao sila sa mga detalye, bisag unsa kagagmay nga detalye about that project. Kay moto dili ta ganahan nga ang pag-uyon sa mga tao regarding a certain project will just be on signatures or kanang unsay makita nila sa social media, no, but daghan kaayo ng dokumento unta no nga dapat mahatag ngadto sa mga katawhan para they can also do their own fair scrutiny, assessment sa usa ka proyekto. And ang social acceptability, no, ang social acceptability na ay gitawag nga IEC or Information and Education Campaign, meaning sa usa ka proyekto na ay buhaton nga mga pulong-pulong or mga discussions relating to certain projects before pa na mahitabo, before pa na sa mga public hearings, public scoping activities. So dapat na IEC campaigns pagpahibalo sa mga katawhan, especially kadtong directly involved naman tayo gitawag nga mga areas, communities, mga sitio nga naagyo diha sa tungod nila buhaton ng reclamation project. So at the very least dapat kahibaw sila unsa ang proyekto about, dili kay ingnon na sila nga naito karon diri nga shopping mall or
Starbucks
like any development
Jollibee.
project, Jollibee or any nga mga buildings or infrastructures. Dapat kahibaw sila unsa ang purpose gyud sa kinatibuk-an nga proyekto, no, kay dili ra ba yata maghisgot ani og 5-10 years damage or consequences nga atong atubangon, but it will take decades good, even like hundreds of years siguro ato nang kuanon, especially ang damage sa environment.
And this concept of we're trying to be like other places, no? I mean, we're so high on Singapore and this is the Bali of Cebu or whatever, but we've in the process really forgotten who we are, what our original imprints are and how beautiful the island of Cebu is, and we become Cebu Waikiki, but really like who and what is Cebu. And precisely the governor's point in Pasigarbo sa Sugbo is to awaken how distinct our cultural heritage is in the island. And when we just keep reclaiming, we effectively also kill the lifeblood of our fisher folk, which is all around Cebu, right? And we lose that aspect of our culture, which is really inherently beautiful, and we become like everybody else, and we've forgotten what Cebu really is, and that's really sad. And which is why the youth are involved now, because this is their culture and heritage that we are going to let them forget if we become another Manila Bay, if we become another SRP, So along with Capital's thrust on cultural reawakening, like a renaissance of sorts, we are also there, right? Really wanting to support that and hopefully economically provide for the locals, because we all want to know the distinct cultural richness in each LGU and area out there for Cebu, right?
Ms. Nin, aside from the LIR that we've already started in the 7th district, like you said, unsa pa may lain nga youth-led activities that we have in the pipeline or like ongoing na ba karon?
Yeah, so we're so excited about this, Joy, because We are also partnered with, say, the municipality of Santa Fe. I would like to congratulate our young environmental champion, Honorable J.L. Contento, because he has led, I think, organizing a co-op, a youth co-op in Santa Fe called Sikad Kabataan,
Yes.
who will be able to provide livelihood for our OSY, single moms, those who are in school, multi-sectoral youth engagement of tour guides that should you visit Santa Fe, you will be led by these brilliant Santa Fe youth in the tours through bike tours. And they will speak the 3 different dialects they have, which is so beautiful. I didn't realize we had that in Cebu. It's a mix of Waray, Hiligaynon, and this, I believe, Bisaya. So we'll get to know that too. And this is all, a tour, like a tour of the Santa Fe protected areas. So please visit Santa Fe for Sikat Kabataan. We have that. And then we have in Asturias also, right? A quite progressive mayor over there who also wants to ensure protection of their environment. And the crafting of, congratulations are in order, the crafting of the city and municipal environmental codes, or the barangay level or the youth environmental codes, and eventually the coastal green belt of Cebu, which is going to be triggered in Santa Fe. So just so many wonderful things that you guys are a part of, and I'm so grateful to be part of too.
Yes, no. Ato lang po di highlight na the environmental codes are really very important. Di man siya ingon nga required for each LGU, but it's a very progressive step for each local government units to have an environmental code wherein ato makita kung unsa ilahang vision, no, kung asa padulong ang ilahang LGU in terms of sustainability and ensuring a climate resilient municipality or city, di ba? Kay at least makita sa nato nga they're very they're very keen on ensuring nga nasa sila mga green nga mga balaod, no?
Yeah.
And ilahang carbon emissions will be lessened.
While the environmental code, municipal or local government environmental code might not be necessarily required, but what is required, however, is the biodiversity management plan. And now the local government climate change action plan, right? So those two are required, and the basis of that would be an environmental code,
Yes.
right? So both would impact that. So there's no going around a crafting of your environmental protection. Aside from, you will really need it in the years to come as extreme weather conditions continue to assail us. And as we continue to build resilient communities, I believe in resilience. Usahay, overuse na gid kay siya nga, it just subjects the Filipino to more abuse. But right now, when we talk about resiliency, we need to get up every time Odette happens. We need to get up after Haiyan happens, right? So how do we start empowering our people to be part of the environment? We need to protect for them.
Yes.
Because it's not, weather's not going to be easy in the next how many years. It's not even easy now. This is the
Yes.
hottest summer I've ever tried all my life.
That's true. And we also talked about the coastal greenbelt zone. So I think we've discussed that here in Partners in Law in the previous episodes. Nga important to have coastal greenbelts. When we talk about coastal greenbelts, it's a stretch of mangroves, no, nga protecting our coasts. To basically inana ra siya.
Yeah.
To ensure nga dili madaot ang ato ang human resources, our communities, especially with the extreme weather conditions that we're experiencing now. And also mangroves sequester, no, grabe sila mo absorb og carbon dioxide. Kanang kainit nga atong na-feel karon, mangroves absorb it I think 5 times more than our terrestrial forests. So important to protect our mangroves.
Yeah.
Good. So
Food supply is also impacted.
Food supply is also
by the
involved.
mangrove.
Yes,
Yeah.
kay breeding ground na siya sa atong mga isda. So daghan kaayong
Cleans our
benefits.
waters. Aside from on a metaphysical level, it's so energetic to be around mangroves, right? It's supposed to be deeply healing energetically also. So there's so many things that we can create industries around our mangroves as coastal protection. It's so important that you highlighted that, Joy, because also another narrative they're pushing is if we reclaim, that becomes coastal protection kay extreme weather na lagi. But the truth of the matter is when you reclaim, you're simply redirecting the flow of water, right, to other areas outside of the reclaimed area of a municipality or a city. You're redirecting water to other parts of that area. So flooding will happen, and the weather will assail the coasts no matter what. It'll probably just be moved to another area, right? So, and the sea will take back what is hers, right? In extreme weather conditions, we've seen it, right? Sand is moved to another area of the island, right? And so much more those reclaimed areas. So the sea will take back what is inherently hers.
Yeah. So in reclamation activities, this is something that we've also learned, over the pilaka. I think we've been fighting for the environment for how many years, and issues of reclamation have really been growing in the recent years. One thing it's very important is to listen to science and listen to the data that you're getting from the ground. So it's very important na atog yung tanawon who will really benefit, who will really be the development for, diba? Para ma-ensure na to nga ang atong proyekto kay beneficial gyud siya, not just for like 5-10 years, but in the long run gyud siya. So I think we're running a little bit out of time na gyud, Miss Nino. So I think for final words siguro, words for our audience, especially kung natay mga youth gyud nga nananaw sa ato ang mga, and dili lang sa youth, young at heart, young ones, atong mga mommies, belated Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day to your mom too, and to all the mommies out there.
To all the mommies out there. So to all the mommies out there who are watching us sa atong programa, Miss Nin, any words, inspirational thoughts?
Well, since it's Mother's Day, I largely do this. I could, to be honest, I was one of those apathetic ones out there who couldn't be bothered until I became a mom, and everything changed. So it was Mother's Day yesterday, and I do this for my daughter, but not only for her, but for all the children out there who are in this with her when we are no longer going to be here for them, in the hopes that really, hopefully, if we can do something about the environment they're going to face, if we can lessen the challenge that is really actually on their backs right now, then let's do it now. So I do this as a mother because I do care, and also that I see their brilliance I have not seen in any generation before that, and I totally believe in them, and I am so blessed to be in their company. And if the solutions are coming from them, it would be such an awesome thing to see, right? Or to get them involved in the solution. Now, also the challenge is for me, I would like to pose to all the developers, right? Like, we are in a climate emergency. Whether there are flat earthers and there are climate deniers and whatever the case, right? But instead of a reclamation project, maybe we should already start doing R&D on other aspects of development, right? More sustainable ones, the green buildings, if it's at all possible, and we keep tweaking that, right? Or where to build so that we build along with the environment. It's the environment that dictates how we build this. It's already being done in Oslo, right? I have this wonderful friend who builds according to the environment, Francis Soliano, and he's a beautiful resort in Oslo that's done so, and actually remained standing through Odette, because when you build through the environment, it sort of protects itself, right? And regardless of extreme weather, economy doesn't have to be disturbed if you build well, right? And so far what we've seen is building well means sustainably, right? So that is the challenge to developers, if they can build according to Cebuano, Cebu's environment and culture.
Yes.
preserving our environment. So that's my
Thank you, Ms. Nin. And also, how are we able to reach Philippine Earth Justice Center for campaigns and collaborations?
Yes, we would be happy to work with you as we've been out there busy going around the schools and organizations, and it's been such a pleasure. Yesterday, I was just, I don't know, this weekend I was with the Bacnaan Youth and Cebu Normal University BS Ed, and they're fantastic, and that was such a great get together. UC Pry was also visited, and they had this tabo, and for 2023, 3 years after it had halted from the pandemic, and the ideas were fantastic there, and the artists were great, and we are not short of talent. So please, we would love to collaborate with you. Reach out to us at Philippine Earth Justice Center through our Facebook page, and we are PEJC _ official in Instagram. Is
Yes.
it? Yeah.
Instagram and Twitter, actually.
Yeah, and so send us a message, and somebody from PEJC is definitely going to get in touch with you, and we look forward to seeing you on the ground, as I always say, because the fight does happen in the ground. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank UC Law through the Office of the Legal Aid, but UC Law Center in general,
Yes.
Dean, Attorney Benguito, for bringing the LSPs on the ground where it really matters. And I think that was such a powerful, empowering way to go about it. So kudos, UC Laws.
Yes.
Impressive.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nino, for sharing with us different campaign strategies, and also really letting us know kind of involvement that we need right now, which is youth led. And the one last message before we say goodbye to our televiewers is that the environment is also our mother, our Mother Earth, we call it. And so we need to protect what we love, and we need to protect our home, because again, we don't have a planet B just yet. So we need to protect our home and our one and only Earth. So I think that's about it, Miss Lynn. Thank you so much again for joining us. And to our televiewers, you can watch previous episodes or other episodes of Partners in Law on our official YouTube page. You can click Celia Partners in Law. You can click like and subscribe. This is also being broadcasted in CCTN Facebook page. And again, Philippine Earth Justice Center is on Facebook, and you can message and reach us through our official social media channel. So again, this is Attorney Joy Argoyon, and with our guest, Ms. Nina Estenzo from the Philippine Earth Justice Center. Daghang salamat ug maayong gabi.